Good evening. I'm here with County Commissioner Scott Dunn. I've known Scott for a while. He was actually the head of the Dunbar Borough when I walked in and gave my my spiel to become the poet laureate of Dunbar, and ever since then he knew I was kind of I walked to a different tune. Okay, Scott. Okay, I have you on camera now.
A different tune is that was the polite way to put it. Yeah, but yeah.
Yeah.
So the hard part with that was making sure that you weren't there to make fun of Dunbar.
No.
And I was like, and then you start thinking about it, like, who has a poet laureate? We, United States. There's some states that have it. Dunbar has its own poet laureate. There you go. So, that was a lot of fun.
I haven't done much with that, but I'm going to get back to that a little bit. I'm going to start working that honor.
There you go. Earn it.
That is an honor,
There you go.
And I'm going to do Dunbar proud. Okay, I'm here to get Scott's views and responses to some of the issues that are facing Fayette County now. He was gracious enough to come down and indulge me to allow me to do this podcast, and I'm hoping it benefits him in the long run, because Scott's a good man. I enjoy his friendship. Okay, Scott, how about where are we at after COVID? After the big bang is done, how does Fayette County round out in the COVID?
So that's actually one of the proudest things that I've done was our COVID response, and now everybody gets to be political about what's COVID. Now it's a political football. At the time, it wasn't. At the time, it was all about it was a health issue, and that's kind of the way that we had to look at it. And we had to look at it from the standpoint of our government had to continue. We needed continuity of government. So we couldn't have our entire 911 staff be out with COVID, or jail guards, or CYS and behavioral health. And
we were locked down, but things had to go on.
Right. And so there were certain things that had to happen and had to continue to happen. So one of the things that we did was we met with WVU Medicine, and that was actually before or right as they were coming to Uniontown Hospital. And we met with infectious disease doctors from Morgantown. These weren't, the PR guys or anything. These were guys coming in lab coats.
Guys you needed to talk to.
Yeah. And so what was interesting about WVU was they have a campus, obviously. We have a campus. We have 20 buildings between all the department buildings and all the MDJ offices, the external things like the recycling center and FACT and all that. So we have 20 buildings. Then they have a congregant setting at the WVU hospital in Morgantown, and we have one in the jail. Now, not exactly the same, but we were able to respond and use their protocols to adapt to Fayette County. So it was just simple things like, if you worked in one building, you stayed in that building and you never went into another building.
Mm-hmm.
And so then we split our shifts. So we had one shift that was going to be, in the office this week, and another shift that would be working from home that week. And then the following week they would switch.
Right. Thinking back. Now thinking back in retrospect, that was common sense, but we never went through anything like that before.
Right, exactly. So. There was no playbook. There was no, hey, here's what you do in a global pandemic, boom, boom, boom. You were just making it up as you go. And so when people go back now and criticize you, you're like, hey, wait a second. I made the best decision for what I had to do at that time.
Right.
So it was just simple things like that. And I can say very proudly, and I knock on a piece of wood every time I say this, we did not have one Fayette County employee or one Fayette County inmate die of COVID. And I think it goes back to a lot of these things that we had put in place.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
I remember Fayette County was on the cutting edge of getting the vaccine out with the calling, because I had done that with my mother. Her and I were both vaccinated, and
Right.
And I remember that Fayette County was setting the pace for that.
Yeah, so I had a friend, a school friend from Uniontown who lived in Virginia. His parents still lived here, and they were 88 and 89 years old. And so he had texted me and said, "How do I get my parents vaccinated?" And he is the only guy that I sent to the state program. And because the state program was you had to go find where the vaccine was, then you had to call that pharmacy or that clinic or that hospital and stay online for hours and hours and hours, and hopefully get an appointment. And then they would overbook their appointments, and then you'd get a call back saying, "Sorry, we overbooked you. There's no vaccine available." So he calls me. I gave this information to him like 10 in the morning. He calls me like 4 in the afternoon. He goes, "Dude, this is way too difficult." And this is one of the smartest guys I know. And then he says, "My parents don't have internet. My parents are not online. Like there's no way that they're going to be able to navigate this." And so we thought about how we could change the system. And so we worked with the hospital, WVU, our emergency management, and then it wasn't going to be enough to have the county and the providers involved. We knew we would need a boatload of volunteers to make this happen. So that's where we got with the chamber, the Fayette County Chamber of Commerce. That's where we got with the Bruderhof up in the mountains. The Bruderhof made over 4,000 phone calls for us, and then we developed a little program, and we devised it kind of like a waiting room. So rather than you be on the phone, you're going to get on our registry, and that put you in the waiting room. And now it didn't get you a shot immediately. And
Right.
then we went through each provider then could pick off if they knew they were getting 1,000 shots. That's another thing. We didn't overbook our shots. So once a hospital or a clinic got 1,000 doses, then they called 1,000 people.
Yeah.
Then,
I was on Facebook with my mother at the time. She was going through, well, we were trying to survive. Her and I were on lockdown together. And she was 90 years old. And I got to say, when that program came out, I was contacted by Vince's wife, Kelly, and she told me who to call.
Right.
And they didn't set me up, but they told me, get on this. So
Right.
And I was so grateful for them, and
Yeah.
I was one of the first people on there because of that. So
Yeah.
I personally saw how great that program worked, and
So, by the way, that was not recommended by the Pennsylvania Department of Health. So we were on a call with them,
okay, yeah.
and they were like, "We do not recommend you do this." And I remember it was a Zoom call, so all you saw was heads, and everybody's head that was on my team was just shaking their head like, "No, I can't believe this." And then I said, "Well, I think we're doing it anyway."
But you went ahead with it.
And every head started shaking, and and it did. We were the only county in the state of Pennsylvania to have our own registry. Then the other counties wanted to know how we did this, so we set up a call with the other counties behind the scenes, and I'm sure that when you went to a vaccine clinic, it was, everything ran smooth and all that.
Yeah.
Behind the scenes, it was nothing but chaos. The computer program that we had, which Ford Business Machine out here at the Laurel Mall actually put together for us in 3 days. It wasn't at 100% when we started. And we knew that. We knew that we were going to have to tweak it as we went. So, but behind the scenes, we were always tweaking. We were always finding volunteers. One day, volunteers didn't show up. I volunteered. I sat in at the Highlands Hospital Clinic. But it worked out well.
Yeah, me and my brother took my mother in her wheelchair to the high school, and I was impressed with how flawless and how in the front of the house. I didn't see the behind the scenes,
Right.
But everything went smoothly, and I couldn't have been more grateful. And I didn't realize it. I knew you guys were the first county in the state to initiate that. I didn't realize that they were trying to shut you down.
Well,
Not so much shut you down, but didn't approve.
They didn't after the fact. They there was about 3 weeks where we didn't get any vaccine.
Yeah.
And we were like, hey, I don't want to say we were showing them up, but I think that we were.
You're showing them up.
We were showing them up.
They're playing catch up now.
But when we did go to the other counties, I did tell them. I said, look, this is going to be the hardest thing you do. This is not going to be easy. And if you wait to be 100, everything's 100% complete, it'll be 2 years before you do anything. Like
right.
We just had to dive in. So yeah.
See, well, that's I've known you a while, and I knew you before you were county commissioner, and you're out there doing stuff. But you were talking about when you were mentioning the older couple didn't have internet, and that was one of the things I was going to ask you about. We can segue into the broadband that we're trying to get going through Fayette County.
Right. So we are in the middle. Well, actually, we're just about at the end of the broadband study that we embarked on last year. Everything. All the money that's now available through the federal government, it's all through grants.
Right.
And the way you get a grant is you have to have a study. And if you don't have a study, you don't get a grant. It's just that simple. So we embarked with a company called Michael Baker International last year to do the study. Now, what they're going to tell us, we kind of already knew. We know where the internet is. We know where it isn't. We know where it's underserved. But what we have to do to unlock this money that's available through the state and the feds is to have this study done.
Yeah,
so
like anything.
So we're close, but we want to. My goal, and I'm not going to meet this goal, but the goal is to have fiber optic cable, which is state of the art 100 speed of light type internet cable service. Available to every home in Fayette County, in business in Fayette County. Now, are we ever going to get there? I mean, if you've been up our mountains, some of them people live way back. We're not going to get 100%, but if we get 90% or 85%, I think we'll be looking pretty good. One of the things that I keep impressing on the leadership as I look up through the state and the feds is they take the word rural out of it. So every time it used to be called rural broadband, but now it's not. Now it's just broadband, and we have places in the mountains where they don't have phone, they don't have internet,
right.
They don't have the services that you and I take for
granted.
Water. Well, that's another thing
Yeah.
that we can talk about, and they've taken the word rural out of that as well. But when we compete though with these urban areas, and so $1 million of fiber in Fayette County doesn't hook up as many homes as $1 million in Pittsburgh or Philadelphia.
You have to, because there's a lot more space in between homes, right?
And we don't have as many voters that are in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh either, and so what happens is that money gravitates towards the population centers, and we're trying to drag that back. And I try to always use their words against them, and I say that there's a rural inequity here. Like we need this broadband just as much as everybody else. And it affects everything. It affects agriculture. There's smart farming now where the cows have a little tag on them, and they know how many times that cow has come through the barn to eat or give milk and all that.
Well, even to recruit new business.
Right.
I'm sure, yeah.
Right, yeah. Business residents.
Yeah.
The one thing COVID did teach us is you can now work from home.
Right.
And so, but you can't work from home if you don't have internet.
Right. So, yeah. But you need to get any new brick and mortar in here. We're going to have to make it up to today's standards.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, what were you saying about water?
So water. I didn't know I was going to be like a water commissioner, but that wasn't really on my like the forefront when I was running for commissioner. But what's happened in the last few years is it started when my friends on Dunbar Mountain, it didn't rain for 30 days. They had no water. And the water that they do have after 2 weeks is this color.
Which that's iced tea, by the way.
It was iced tea. And so you started talking to people and you realize, they're not even doing laundry. I mean, how do I sell and promote Fayette County? Hey, come live here. It's beautiful. Here's their $400,000 house. By the way, the laundromat's down the road to the right.
Right.
It's just not a selling point. And everybody keeps saying everybody deserves clean water. And I'm like, okay, well, we do too. And so it's been about a 3-year plan to try to get some water up on the mountains and try to get it funded. But going back to the broadband and the funding, $1 million of water doesn't hook up as many homes in Fayette County as it does in Pittsburgh. And so, we are continually fighting that to get our share of the pie. And
well, I remember I worked at Nemacolin Woodlands years ago, and they didn't even have water. I don't know if they do now or not, but they had water trucked in. I don't know if, and that's.
They're doing a little better now.
Okay, I mean, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I haven't, but I remember those days. Okay, sewage. Sewage seems to be going in everywhere, which is fine. We have this place on 119, this restaurant we're recording from, and for 45 years, we had no sewage, and that was right on 119.
Right.
Now we have sewage, thankfully, but I still see the places are without sewage.
No, a lot of the townships now are using some of their ARPA money for sewage projects. We were able to use some of the county ARPA money to, finalize. I know North Union did a couple of projects, and there are a couple other municipalities doing that as well, and a couple other authorities. But one of the things that we also implemented was called the Fayette County Infrastructure Bank. And this is not a grant program, this is a loan program. So what we do is we take requests for projects from all the municipalities and all the water authorities, sewage authorities in Fayette County, and we kind of bundle them all together.
Okay.
And the county goes and we get a loan, and then we loan the money out to the authorities and the municipalities. And then they do this infrastructure work. And a lot of times, so what happens is the municipality got so much money from the federal government for their COVID money, ARPA money, but it might not be enough. Or it might be we need more money to get for a match for a grant or something like that. So they've been able to use this money. And we've only had one round so far, but we borrowed and lent out $8.5 million. Most of it went to the North Fayette Water Company, and they're going to do, water projects with this money. But a couple of them went out to some of I think we had 5 municipalities that borrowed. And so as you look at infrastructure in Fayette County, we cannot build Fayette County without more infrastructure, and it's just not going to happen. As you try to attract businesses to come here, they want to know is there water, sewage, electric? We have companies right now in Fayette County who are ready to expand, but they don't have additional electric. So we met with the president of the Pennsylvania Manufacturers Association, because I said I want to bring more manufacturing to Fayette County. And so then his first thing was, hey, the power grid, like you got to solve that problem.
Right.
And so we're working on a few ideas along that line, but without, and then housing. Going back to water and sewage and all that, if we're going to build back population in Fayette County, we need more housing. Our housing stock of available houses is actually pretty low.
Right.
So.
And recreation, now that seems to be, people just don't work and go home. They want things to do.
Right.
And they want
Right.
they want everything. We have to, and we need the infrastructure to provide that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of
So,
course.
yeah, and along those lines. So what I try to do with that is every time I'm thinking about tourism and promoting tourism or building a new tourism asset, it's always, yeah, that's going to attract business or attract people, attract visitors to Fayette County, but it's also for us.
Right.
It's also, yeah, we're going to use that too. So, and I'm looking at the Sheepskin Trail directly through that lens. And the section that's built in South Union, that South Union supervisors built, is very heavily used, and it's not connected on the south end or the north end. It's being used by the residents, and so
I kind of touched on that with Mr. Vasides when I did, and we were talking about the. I brought up I see all the pictures of the bridge on there, the covered bridge.
Mm-hmm.
I have to visit that. I love that.
Yeah.
Tell me about it.
So again, this is you're always looking for bridges when you're building trails,
mm-hmm.
and it's crazy. The railroad rips them out, and then you got to find a bridge to put back in, right? And so PennDOT, when they did the project on I-70 at Newstand, there was a pedestrian bridge there that crossed I-70.
Okay.
And so somehow South Union got in touch with PennDOT and said, can you cut it in half and ship it to us? And so they have...
Oh, that's how it happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that is actually the PennDOT bridge that crossed I-70, a portion of it, and then they built and made a covered bridge out of it.
Yeah, that looks... I mean,
it
that's
looks like
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. The trail, how do you want to develop it to where... do you want it to stretch into the other trail systems to create... I mean, how far will it go? How far does it connect to the one in Connellsville? Do you plan on somehow interlinking it to the the one to DC? Will there be any of that in the works?
So that is the plan. That's the goal of the Sheepskin Trail, is to be 34 miles long, starting at Connellsville, working its way through Dunbar, Lemont, Uniontown, Fairchance, Smithfield, Point Marion, to the West Virginia line, and then into Morgantown.
Nice.
And so from Connellsville to the West Virginia line is 34 miles. And when I started, I think we had 6 miles built of the Sheepskin Trail. We have 2.2 from the Gap, Great Allegheny Passage, to Dunbar, and then the 2.6 miles in South Union, and about a mile, 1.7 miles was built from the West Virginia line up to Point Marion. So there are 4 basic stages of this is technical and boring. Sorry.
Well, lay it on me. I asked the question.
So there's 4 basic stages of trail building, and the first one is acquiring the title, doing the title work. And so when a railroad took possession of a property via eminent domain,
mm-hmm.
and then they abandon that property, it goes back to the people that they took it from. Well, when they took it by eminent domain in 1880, that can be a problem.
Yeah.
And so you have to do all of this title work, okay? Then once you are done with the title work, and you know who owns and who you're going to deal with from a title standpoint, then you have to go acquire either the property or a right of way or whatever. Uh-huh. And there's a certain way and a certain kind of company that has to do this, that it has to be PennDOT approved. Because if it's not PennDOT approved, then stages 3 and 4 don't get funded. So stage 3 is
the main thing anyway.
Right. So, and each stage needs funding. So you need funding to go out and do all the title work. You need funding to go acquire you need funding for stage 3, which is the final kind of, we know the basic of what has to happen. When you have acquired the property, you have to do the final engineering, and you have to go now you're going down and saying, okay, I need drainage here, I need a bridge here. You're doing everything in a final stage that a construction company for stage 4 is going to come in and actually build.
Do it, right.
So those are the 4 stages: title, acquisition, engineering, and construction. So now we are kind of multitasking, and we now have we've built another 1.4 miles north out of Point Marion. We are seeking a grant for the final engineering for the section that would go from South Union to Fairchance. We have a grant to build the final section in Uniontown, the city of Uniontown. We're working with the railroad on a potential plan working into North Union Township out to the Lemont Furnace area. And then in North Union and Dunbar Townships, we are doing the title work. And that should be done May of this year. So all of that puts about 26 miles of the 34 miles in one of those
it's
4
exhausting.
stages. Yeah, and so but the ultimate goal here is the Sheepskin Trail is going to connect 2 trail systems. There's the Great Allegheny Passage and all the trails that go to the north of that. And then in West Virginia, there is the Mon River system in the state of West Virginia and going south. These 2 trail systems never meet, but they will
Until
now.
Yeah.
And so we will be the connector trail. So now you will be able to drive your bike from Pittsburgh to Morgantown or Parkersburg to Cumberland, or you will have all these.
That'll open up.
Right. And so what happens then is you start getting businesses who will locate. And I always use Dunbar as an example. It's easy for me. We have a population of 1,000. If we get 300 bikers a day, which sounds like a lot, but it's, when you compare it to a Pa or somewhere like that, it's really not. That's probably a tenth of the bikers that are at Pa. But so I use 300 a day. That increases my population of my city by 30%.
Right.
So now that store who thought, hey, I don't have enough business to go, or that restaurant, or that Airbnb, or that whoever now says.
Well, let me throw in right now. We're sitting in my restaurant right now, Hutch's, and I can't tell you how many times I've had cyclists that were going down from the Gap, and they would stay at a local hotel or motel, and they would be referenced to come here to eat, and you could always tell they just looked
right.
You could tell they weren't locals, and whatever. And I've talked to so many people from around the world. I mean, I've had people from Germany, Sweden, different people from DC, everywhere, and they'd walk around and take pictures of the stuff in here and everything, and then I'd come out and talk with them, and they were riding the trail and either staying at the Melody or the Comfort Inn, and so they'd ask where to eat, and they'd come out here to eat, and so just that little bit of people coming into this town for one night, if it was open up to that other, it would be huge.
So I can tell you there are people out there who don't believe in tourism. Trust me on this one. There are 4 multi-million-dollar investments happening right now along the Great Allegheny Passage. We're going to speak soon to another company who wants to have the 5th. And that doesn't count things like Excella Health coming to Connellsville, because they see the growth. There are other things happening because of the growth that's being provided by this trail. So don't sleep on it. If I told you I was going to bring a company to Fayette County that was going to provide a $30 million impact, pay $4.3 million in state, local, and federal taxes, and employ 300 people, you would be all over that.
Sure.
Okay? That's the projected impact of the Sheepskin Trail.
Yeah, hey, I'm all for it. I think it's great. Although we do need.
We need that has to be part of it.
Right.
That can't be all of it. But but we still need manufacturing, agriculture, education, and all the others, healthcare, and all the other.
But it goes hand in hand.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. You got to start somewhere, and if people do come here to work, they want, like we say, they want things to do.
Right.
And if they don't have internet and they don't have outdoor activities, they're not going to come here.
Exactly.
Right. That's kind of obvious, but
Right.
but a lot of people don't think in those terms.
So, but when you talk to a company that actually is interested in coming here, it's amazing how they go to, they see a site and they see the water, or they see a rail line next to it, or they see, the space, and they're envisioning their company being located, and then they say, "What's the quality of life here?"
Yeah.
And I'm like, "See those mountains?"
Yeah.
And let's start talking about that. And that's something that I think we can really compete on.
Yeah.
As we move forward.
I agree. As far as natural beauty, this
Right.
unrivaled around here.
Because you're recruiting, not only you're recruiting a business, a lot of times you're recruiting either their ownership or their top management to come live here as well. So.
Yeah, how many people come from around the world to go to Falling Water?
Oh, it's crazy.
That was part of when I had those. I said I had people from Germany. They were architects, and they were riding the Gap, and they were asking me how public transportation to get to Falling Water, and I was like, well,
Yeah.
I said,
So that is actually one of the things. We have a tourism alliance, and they meet, I don't know, once every month or once every 2 months, and that's one of the things that they talk about is getting people off of the trail and into places that aren't by the trail, and Falling Water is first and foremost on that list. So yeah, it's not something that's not being looked at,
right?
But I don't know.
That's good.
I don't know how to. I think there's an entrepreneurial opportunity for somebody to provide transportation.
Yeah, as much a much needed and phenomenal program, the fact buses and everything. This group wasn't.
No, they weren't going to ride a fact bus. Yeah.
Fact bus. No. Okay. Well, tell me about the fact bus. What is it? What?
So that fact really took a hit during COVID. They went from about 20,000 riders a month to about 8,000, and it's slowly building back up. But we're trying to rebrand it and trying to resell it a little bit to try to make sure everybody knows what's going on. And that's part of what I've been trying to do is a little bit of PR from a standpoint of there are a lot of programs and things in Fayette County that people just don't know about. Like for when I talk to the people at Drug and Alcohol.
Just speak up a little bit.
When I talk to the people,
you don't have to get too close to the mic. You were just kind of you were kind of trailing down a little bit.
Sorry. So when
I want everyone to hear you.
As an example, the people at Drug and Alcohol, when I meet with them, there are like 80 programs for people trying to kick the habit, whatever habit that is.
Sure.
Whether it's gambling, smoking, drinking, drugs, the family members, there are grief grief programs,
counseling.
There's all of these programs, and even I'm on the inside and I'm stunned. Like, hey, there's actually something for a lot of these, and so I think
a lot of it is getting the word out. So that's kind of what we're doing here, hopefully.
Right. And so if you have one of those problems, call the Fayette County Drug and Alcohol Commission, and they will hook you up. So I'll segue to the opioid settlement.
The dreaded.
The Fayette County is now in. We settled an opioid lawsuit, and so we are going to get about $500,000 a year for 18 years, but you're only allowed to use it for opioid and opioid related, either treatment or education and things like that. So one of the things that we've done, and I'm actually pretty proud of this as well, is we didn't blanket the whole county with some sort of opioid advertisement or anything like that. We decided we are going to go directly at the people who need the help. And so we know in our jail that 90% of the inmates have some sort of substance use disorder.
Right.
Okay. We know that if you're homeless, you have a substance you are more than likely to have a substance use disorder or mental health tied to that. Mm-hmm. And then the third was it's three things, and I can only always remember two. So the third one is you actually overdosed this today. We have a program now that's going to go back to your house and talk to you.
Okay.
And we're going to take the EMS guy or the EMS company,
whoever administered Narcan.
Right. Well, not necessarily, not technically the same person, but somebody from the EMS company and somebody from drug and alcohol. We're going to go back to their house.
Okay.
And try to get them into counseling.
Yeah. See,
Rather than just blanket the whole county with some sort of message, we're going directly at the
individual.
People. Yeah,
that's great.
Yeah, so it's kind of a cool.
That seems progressive. That's good. I thought there was too much red tape and all that stuff, and then too many people with their hands in the pot, and not enough hands-on to the individual. That sounds great.
Yeah. So we're kind of proud of that. So that should be starting soon. Of course, we have to talk about red tape. You've got to have all the reporting regulations back to the state. You
got to have all your ducks in a row.
Yes, and there you go. But
got to jump through all the hoops. Just to run a business like mine, it's gotten so complicated. I can't even imagine what goes through what you guys have to go through. But you do it. You're doing a good job.
That's why I always say I'm excited every day to go to work. I'm excited a lot of days to go home from work, but
you're just an excitable guy. Okay, we're talking education here. As far as education for addicts and homeless and how about? I don't want to say that's negative because that's very positive. But do we have any other programs for higher education going on?
So we do. So one of the things that I always saw as a parent, even before I became commissioner, was if our college-bound students didn't go to Penn State Fayette,
right,
which is a fine institution,
but
if they don't go there, they're leaving the county.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw that with my own children. One of my daughter now lives in Florida, and she goes to a community college in Florida. And then my son went to Geneva, and it was cheaper to go to Geneva than it was to go to Penn State. And so, but he went out. Both of them went out of county, and so only half of those kids come back.
Right.
And so they see the world in another
and their opportunities.
So some of them don't come back, and so I think that's where we start now. We had the population decline due to the coal and steel industries,
economic
50 years
downfall,
ago, right? But now I think what I see is that our population decline starts with these kids leaving. So what I just decided to do was I'm going to look at the community college system. So in Florida, my daughter goes to a community college. She's an in-state resident for $1,500 a semester, and that's before financial aid. And I told her I'll cut her a check every semester for $1,500. So. How do you compete with that? In the state of North Carolina, there are 59 community colleges. There are 14 in the state of Pennsylvania. So, and I know we have Cal and we have Edinburgh and all those places, but they're not here. And I wanted to not send our kids away. So, very early into, maybe 2 months into being a commissioner, I reached out to WCCC, Westmoreland County.
Which, by
Community
the way,
College.
that's where I did my culinary training, and I can vouch that it's a great
Yeah,
great program.
absolutely. But it took and this was during COVID, and there's a lot of uncertainty about higher education. Hey, are they ever going to go back to that classroom? Is everything going to be online? They're already getting kids from Fayette County, and so at the end of 13 months of talks, and they actually said no, we don't want to put a campus in Fayette County.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, well, like, what's Plan B, C, or D?
I didn't know. I thought there was gonna be a different outcome for this story.
Well, there is going to be
Okay.
a different outcome. So, so Plan B was I talked to several other colleges about coming here with no luck, and then I was in Pittsburgh at an event at a mixer, and I met people from Salem University from
Yeah.
Salem, West Virginia. And I said, hey, would you ever consider putting a campus in Fayette County? And they're like, we'll talk to you. So,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah.
I didn't know any of this.
Yeah. And so this past month, we signed a memorandum of understanding with Salem that did not obligate Fayette County in any way, except for we have to put a link to them on our website, which we're going to put a link to everybody on our website anyway,
Right.
which it should be there. But Salem's going to come. Salem, when you go to Salem, West Virginia, it looks like Fayette County, feels like Fayette County. They're doing it there. They have a branch campus in Indianapolis, in an inner city, and so the goal here is to boost education. The goal isn't to take any students from who's here. The goal is to boost education
And to give alternatives.
right, and to educate our students here. So Salem right now will be online strictly,
Right.
but you will be able to, if we can get enough students to sign up at Salem, it'll be in the $3,000 per semester
Right.
range. So you'll be able to get and they're not a community college, they're a 4-year college with doctorates and masters and
Wow,
and all that stuff. So you'll be able to get fully educated here in Fayette
You
County.
don't have to leave.
And you don't have to leave.
Yeah.
So really excited about that. And the other part that drove that for me, we talk about all this great stuff about the trails and all the things that you can do in Fayette County, and I call that the top of the pyramid. And if you're going to be a politician and just polish the top of the pyramid, that
All right. Right.
good for you. But I want to build the base of the pyramid.
Yeah.
And because that's how the pyramid gets taller when you build the base.
Right.
I'm blowing your mind right now a little bit.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe.
Well, if
No, I get you.
know,
Yeah.
I mean, to make the pyramid taller, you got to make the base wider.
Right.
You got to grow the base.
Yeah.
And-
I'm picturing it now. Very good
see?
analogy.
Yeah, and just as a man, like I couldn't just do that. Like I couldn't just worry about who's doing well in Fayette County. I want to help the people who aren't doing well
Yeah.
at the same time. And so, because you have crime and poverty and blight, homelessness, all the social ills that not only are here, but they're everywhere right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and I'm not trying to be a downer for Fayette County, but
Fayette County kind of has a public relations nightmare thing going on anyway. So
we're changing that. A
you
little
are.
bit.
You are.
So,
I still run into people,
Yeah.
and when you
Yeah.
say Fayette County, it's kind of like that. Huh.
So I had a guy. So I was at an event. Listen. So part of my thing is, and I was saying, and everybody's heard me say it, we can't sit here in Fayette County and expect good things just to come to us. We got to go get it. So that's why when I say I saw Salem and Pittsburgh, That was because I went to Pittsburgh
Yeah.
to go to an event, and I do these at my own expense too. I don't charge the county for mileage or anything like that, and it's at night. My wife's happy to get rid of me for a night, so she's
So you get out of the house.
Yeah, she has a house. She gets the TV. So we go to Pittsburgh a lot. I don't even remember where I was going with this now.
Public relations for the.
Yeah. Oh, so I was at an event, and the guy introduced me as the commissioner from Fayette, Nam.
Oh, ouch.
You could have heard a pin drop in the room. Like, everybody just started booing him. And at first it was a hush, and then everybody started booing him. The dude was he goes, I thought everybody said that. And like, no, we don't say that word in Fayette County. But he was so apologetic. I mean, I thought he was going to be in tears. I mean, plus I had the Rise guys with me from wrestling. The wrestlers.
Yeah, right.
So I was going to say, hey, go over there, get that guy.
Take care of this.
Yeah. But so I really think we're starting to turn that tide, and but
Well, the more tourism, the more positive image we have, and yeah, of course,
Right.
yeah. But for a long time, I can remember same thing. I'd go to Pittsburgh, and I'd say I have a business in Connellsville. Where's that at? Fayette County. Like, I'm like, well, hey, it's a nice place,
Right.
We just got. Although I will say, I get angry when I watch the news, and anytime something happens in Fayette County, it's like the news crew always finds the worst person to put on camera, and then it'll say Fayette County man.
Right. And my thing is, when it's on Facebook and somebody says only in Fayette County, and I'm like, and sometimes it didn't even happen in Fayette County. Like, it happened just across the river in Westmoreland or Washington, and I'm like, no,
wait a minute.
this happens everywhere. But to go back to higher education, so the one thing that I was able to glean from the statistics was the more educated you are, the less likely you are to live in poverty. And it sounds, easy to say, but now I can put it in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
So the poverty rate in Fayette County is 17%. Not happy about that. That's the second highest in the state of Pennsylvania. But we're going to work at lowering that number. So if you were a high school dropout, your poverty rate is 35 or 36%. If you are college educated, some college or trade training, your poverty rate is 3.49%. So there is a direct correlation between education and poverty.
Certainly.
So the goal here is to boost the training and the education for everybody, and then as we build our economy,
build the pyramid.
and, we're gonna build the base of the pyramid. So that's kind of the one thing, and there's a plan there, and it's very fluid as far as making sure once we build training, and we have Salem here and Penn State and LBI and the CTIs and all the adult education at night, we're going to make sure that we get into the schools at an earlier age to make sure that we start, and this is a Washington, D.C. word, make sure we navigate our children to more positive outcomes. And so, that's part of the plan. And then you look at things like addiction and mental health. That all has to be part of the plan, because if in your physical health, because if you live in poverty, you are less likely to go see your doctor for a preventative checkup.
And also your diet is different.
Right.
Everything. Yeah.
So, so those are the goals here. And and I have a lot of sayings. One of my sayings is, we didn't get here. This didn't start last night. We're not going to solve it by tomorrow. But if
I hear that all the time from my girlfriend.
Yes. But if you don't take that first step, that never happens.
Right.
So.
Well, what I'm taking from this interview so far, I mean, there's a couple other things I wanted to ask, but what I'm really excited about is the long-term projects you have in play. Because everybody promises things immediate, but Fayette County, like you said, needs to be built back up. And the
Exactly.
long-term things you're suggesting, I think are what we need are appropriate.
Right.
Yeah, very, very, very. I mean, I'm just a guy, but I'm a voter. I mean, I think that's great news. All those things, and I'm invested as a business owner in this
Right.
area, and yeah, I mean that sounds. Those are really good projects that I like hearing. I like hearing about a lot of that
Right.
stuff. Okay, how about what are we doing with the prison lately? I see that there's all kind of activity.
So we're getting close.
Okay.
We've had we're actually going to cut a ribbon. I think May 5th, Cinco de Mayo. And if you want to go on a little tour of it,
you're offering tours?
We're
Okay.
gonna offer that. Now it's not going to be an open where you
Open to
just
the
get to
public.
walk through and drop something for somebody to use as a shank later. So we have to be very
Bar
careful.
of soap you can carve into a gun. Or, yeah.
So we have to be very careful of how we do this. And the warden is kind of not really on board. But since we're his boss, we
Will this be
we're gonna
before
make
there's
that happen.
inmates in
Yeah,
there?
there will be before. But we're going to take the administrative area in one of the pods and have that open. And then you'll have to sign up. It won't be you'll have to sign up, but you can come. And we'll have the old time slots for everybody. So
Yeah,
I don't know when that's going to be yet, but
Well, I didn't see that's news to me. I didn't know about that. I think
I hope
that's
that goes
cool.
down because
What
I'm only one vote.
is there any plans for the old prison, or is it going to remain, or are you going to tear it down, or
Next
make it a
question.
historical place?
Next question.
Okay, next question.
No,
Okay, let's get into recycling then,
So,
if we're-
well, so it is on the National Historical Register.
Yeah.
And so you can't tear it down.
Right.
And I would hate to tear it down because of the bridge that goes between
True.
the courthouse and the jail.
That's unique architecture.
And and we're told we're one of 3 of those in the world. Wow. And I know there's one in Pittsburgh and there's one in Europe somewhere where it goes between the courthouse and the jail. And I would just hate to lose the architecture. I don't know what that means as far as how we can use it. We have a lot of storage needs. The storage, you would be appalled at how much stuff we have stored, and it's because it's required. Like there are papers in the register.
Isn't that
Will's
going
office.
towards the Gallatin building and all that?
Yeah. So we'll have some storage in the basement there, but even divorce records right now for real ID. You have to have your original copy of your
original paper
that's on file at the courthouse. So there are records that are never allowed to be destroyed, even if they're on microfilm.
Yeah.
They're just not allowed to be destroyed. So the amount of storage that we have in the basement of the courthouse, in the basement of the 911 building, basement of the post office building, I mean, it's just everywhere. So we may be able to do something there, but I that's not the best use of that.
Well, I don't want to put you on the spot. It just seemed like a natural question.
I just don't know. We just don't know. The one thing we do know is from our lawsuit, that was the jail. The new jail came about because of a lawsuit, and which was filed by the ACLU over the conditions of the old jail, and part of the settlement of the lawsuit was going to be that Fayette County build a new jail.
Yeah.
So rather than have that, and that's what happened in Pittsburgh too with the Allegheny County Jail, they took, when you are mandated to build that jail, the federal government actually kind of takes over the project, and all you do is write the check. Mm-hmm. and they don't care that Fayette County doesn't have any money to pay for it. They don't care. The ACLU doesn't care that you don't have the money to pay for it. Right. So rather than wait for this to happen, we built our jail.
I see.
And we're actually pretty happy that we did, because with we continued to work on this jail through COVID, the design of it, and we were able to cut it from about 68 million when I started to 40 to 45 million now. Had we waited through supply chain, inflation, interest rates going up, our interest rate on the jail and the loan that we got is 2.15%.
Okay, now.
So had we waited, that 45 million plus interest goes to probably 65 to 70 million
Right.
plus interest. I mean, we did what was right. It's not popular by any stretch of imagination. If you're an aspiring politician out there, don't build a jail. It's not popular. But it had to be done,
Yeah,
and
right.
it was going to be done one way or another, whether the federal government made us do it, mandated us to do it, or if we did it on our own, and we made the right decision.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's not the popular infrastructure, but that's part of the infrastructure.
Right.
Everything has
Right.
to be up to today's standards.
Right.
Or it's
Yeah. And, not only, and everybody says, well, you build a Taj Mahal for the inmates. I'm like, well, what about our workers?
Yeah.
Like, we have workers who, deserve, like,
Right.
listen, that jail, I don't say anything publicly about the jail because
Don't say
I don't
anything.
want to be sued.
Don't say anything.
But yeah, we will be very happy the day that we are fully in the new jail, and that should be at some point this summer.
Now the tours, will they be open to the public, or like you have to make a reservation?
Yeah,
or
it'll be open to the
appointment?
public, but you'll have to make a reservation. Yeah.
Okay.
And it'll be very limited. It'll probably be one day, and we're done.
Right.
Because they want to limit, again, you think, hey, I just dropped something accidentally. We think, as
How about you take me through it, and I'll do a documentary of it. We'll do a blog for it. What do you
There you
think?
go. We'll see.
If I'm,
We'll see,
if
but-
I'm allowed.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm not jumping the gun here,
Yeah.
but I mean that would be fun if you could walk me through it and take me on a tour, and I could. It's the things that people can see. I'm sure there's
Right.
things that you don't want people
Yeah.
to see, but I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah.
I like to try different projects.
Yeah. There you go. I don't know if I'm allowed to do that yet.
Yeah, I know. I'm just putting a little something in your ear.
Department
in
of
case.
Corrections might get mad at me.
Okay,
might put me in one of the cells.
yeah.
So.
I'll meet you out front. Okay. What are we doing with our recycling around here? I see all kinds of talk in the paper and everything, and it seems like it's
We
building
are
up.
we are talk of the recycling state universe.
Yeah.
So again,
Vaccines and recycling.
yeah,
Fayette
pretty much,
County,
yeah. So we saw early that, early in my tenure as commissioner, I thought this isn't working. When you went out to the recycling center, it was dirty, and I don't want to throw.
It itself needed recycling.
Yeah, I don't want to throw shade at anybody, but I thought we could take it into a new direction, and so one of the things that we started doing was we started talking to other counties, and we would go to other counties to see their recycling center. And so I remember going to Beaver County, and we were looking at Beaver County's recycling, and it was kind of neat, and everybody had to separate all their stuff, and then they had different bins for everything. It was completely self-serve, but they only had one location in the county. And I said, well, how far does somebody have to drive to get here? What's the farthest? And they were like, 20 minutes or so. And I'm like, well, nobody's driving from, Acme or Bell Vernon or Point Marion to Uniontown to drop off
Recyclables. Yeah.
Right. That's just not going to happen. So then we went to Indiana County, and Indiana County had like this indoor thing, and it was still self-serve. But then they had these bins out throughout the county, and so that was kind of we kind of took something from all of the places that we visited or talked to, and then we started saying, okay, how do we design something that works for Fayette County? And so what you see is the bins. I think we have 35 bins out right now throughout the county. They get filled up with the normal stuff. So then we have the recycling center, which we had to work out a deal with the Pennsylvania DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, because they owned the center and grant funded it.
We're not open.
So what happened was we kind of went through this process where we put our plan together for the DEP and decided that, hey, this is how we're going to do it.
I had somebody come in the front. I should have locked the front door.
Yeah, should have locked it. Here you go. So anyway, back to recycling. What happened was all we wanted to do was collect. So we don't want to process recycling. We don't really want to sell it. So
Right.
we get money on the amount of recyclables that we collect, and then you don't have to separate your recycling. Everything can be commingled in the green bin, in the big green bins, and it's taken to Superior Fine Grind in Collinsville, and it is separated and packaged together, and then he sells it.
I didn't realize you didn't have to separate it. And
yeah, you don't
everything.
separate anything. Everything's in one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's what's kind of cool. Even at my house, we have the garbage can is right here, and then we have the door to the garage, and then inside the garage we hang a bag on the wall, and so it either goes here or boom, it goes there, and there's no thought to it. It's one bag, and we probably do 2 bags.
Now, what products do they recycle there? Is it just glass and cans?
Glass, cans, plastic. And Sheila Shea is going to kill me right now because I'm not thinking of everything.
Cardboard? Do you guys do
cardboard? Yeah, boxes, paper. Again, just throw it in there, and it all goes.
Okay, so for example, I just thought of cardboard. That was a selfish reason because I get all kind of deliveries here, and I break down the boxes and put them in my dumpster. Can I take them to the green?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's
there
nice to know.
So, and then at the recycling center, not only can you drop off your normal recycling, but now you can drop off TVs, electronic, tires, furniture. There's some fees associated with some of those, and you can look up that online.
See, this is. I didn't.
Yeah. So all the things that are on
me.
the side of the road that you see going through our beautiful countryside that somebody decided to dump on the side of the road actually can be recycled at the recycling center for a very small fee. I think a tire is $2. And then it cost us, $1 to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So we tried to make the recycling program self-sustaining from the standpoint of, when you drop something off, there may be a small fee, but then that goes towards the program.
Yeah.
And then, again, with the tonnage that we receive, we get a state grant for the tonnage, which our tonnage has gone up. I don't even know how the percentage anymore. I have too many numbers in my head. But I know that usership at the recycling center went up 90%. Like over 5,000 people last year came to drop something off at the recycling center.
Yeah, like I say, I remember that at the Fayette County Fair they would have one or 2 days a year where you can go and you can take your TVs and all that kind of stuff. And
now we have 3 days a week: Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday, every fourth Saturday. And so we have like over 100 days now of all that hard to recycling stuff that you couldn't get rid of in the past. Now you have over 100 days that you can get rid of that at the recycling center.
Hopefully that will eliminate a lot of the places you see on the side of the road where people just drop a TV and all that kind of stuff. Hopefully.
I hope so because I'm tired of cleaning up the roadsides.
Yeah.
So, but that's one of the things I like to volunteer for, and my boy likes to go out and pick up the trash. And so we had a little thing over on Ferguson Road in Dunbar right after I became commissioner.
That was a couple years ago, I remember.
Yeah, and we took out 3 dumpsters of trash, and I made a deal with PennDOT that PennDOT would come pick up the tires. And so the guy called me and he said, "How many tires?" And I said, "Okay, well, I don't know." So I drove Ferguson Road on the way home, and I started counting 1, 2, 3, 4. I got to 10. I saw 10 tires. So I called up the guy and I said, "I don't know, like 20 tires." 405 tires. so I drove about Ferguson Road, and there's PennDOT with a front end loader and 5 dump trucks full of tires. And I'm like, "Oh man, this dude's gonna kill me." So he did call me up and he said 20 tires. Seriously. And I went, so my response was, "That wasn't the first time you've been lied to by politicians."
Right, 20 plus.
So, and it just disheartens me when I see the trash on the side of the road. And I came up with a new slogan that our PR person's going to use. It said, "Let's take pride in our countryside." I can't. We got to do better. So that's my pitch to Fayette County. We got to do better on the trash on the side of the road.
How about this? I'm going to give you a pitch. Years ago, I'd say early 90s, 92, 93, I was involved in a program at the drug and alcohol building where they were trying to come up with a drinking and driving program kind of thing. And I volunteered to help them with a slogan and an ad campaign. Anyway, I came up, and this was what I submitted was only meant to be like a promo. Do you like this? I'll elaborate. I'll make it better. It was like a rough draft. I created that hand over the reins.
Did you?
Yeah, with the
yeah,
reindeer and all that, and I did that on my computer on a very, and my skill level was so much less than it is now. But even then, it was meant to be just like a rough draft. Like, hey, here's a rough draft, and okay, it's okay. And then I didn't hear from them, and next thing I know, it's on billboards, it's on flyers, it's everywhere. This hand over the reins. Now, I didn't want any credit for it, but I didn't take any credit for it because I didn't. It wasn't a finished product. I'm like, I didn't do that.
You should have got royalties.
I got nothing. I didn't even get I didn't even get an attaboy. But if you got, I'd do something like that if I could.
Well, you come up with a better slogan. I will use it.
Okay.
But and the thing about cleaning up the side of the road, and I've had people like trash me because I pick up trash on the side of the road, but I'm trying to inspire people to A, not litter, but B, pick a road in your township and just take 2 hours and go pick it up, and you'll be happy that you volunteered. And as you drive down it, you'll be like, "Hey, I cleaned that up. I did something."
If everybody does their part,
right?
Yeah. It's that pyramid again.
It's a pyramid.
All right, we're going to start wrapping it up, though, Scott. We've been running now, what is it, an hour and 8 minutes. How about you look into the camera, and I want you to tell people why they should reelect you.
Well, I didn't know that was coming. That's
I know. I'm trying. I'm throwing. I was throwing you softballs. Now it's time for.
Yeah. So, all the good things that you heard about started because somebody decided to take action, or somebody decided to be decisive and dependable and determined, and that's all the things that I'm trying to do right now. This isn't about me. I don't have political aspirations. I want my community to prosper, and I can't say that enough. The things that I've done have all been about making sure that Fayette County is rebuilt, and that everybody can take part in that rebuilding of the county. So I have my little thing that I This is from 4 years ago, and these are the things that I decided that were important to me 4 years ago. These are the things that I work on every day. I keep this under my pillow to make sure that I am staying on track. I've done these things plus a ton more, as you've heard today during this. I want to continue to do that, and I would be honored to do that. I don't kid when I say I'm excited to go to work every day for Fayette County, because I know that I'm going to help somebody. I'm going to help my county, and that's my only goal. I don't have a hidden agenda to do anything. I don't have massive donors out there that are telling me what to do. I work for you, and I will continue to work for you. There you go.
Well, like I said earlier at the beginning of the podcast, I met Scott when he was the head of the Dunbar Borough Council, and he's always been involved in local government, and he's always tried to make a difference.
It's always been about community for me, but my community changed. I'm still from Dunbar,
yeah.
But my community just got a little bit bigger.
Right. But still, it's Fayette County isn't that big, but to have somebody that is from Fayette County that wants to better Fayette County and gives it his all, and is a kind of person that you are, I think is great.
Yeah,
great.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
I appreciate your support.
yeah.
And if you need the best French onion soup in Fayette County, you got to go see this guy, because he got it.
I appreciate the plug too. Okay, we're gonna wrap it up now. This was over an hour long, an hour and 11 minutes. We're at that point right now. I usually go about an hour. I enjoyed this conversation. Scott's. I try not to use my platform to endorse anybody officially, but Scott is a friend, and I don't think you could go wrong by bringing Scott back for another term or two. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Okay.
It's always great seeing you.
Well, take care. God bless. I hope you enjoyed our broadcast today.
I did. Thank you.